that's working. Set that up. Okay. Hello everyone, I'm Alan, also known as McLaren 2009, and I'm back again playing Derail Valley. I've got a little bit of an idea of what I want to work on today. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is there were a couple of pretty good ones going up towards the goods factory, that those sounded pretty nice. Okay, yeah. And I think there's a logistics one as well. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to get these three loads going up to the goods factory. So that's a little bit out of where we went last time. But while we're at it, we could... Nah, we won't bother. Because this is 400 tons, this is 400 tons, and that's 80 tons. So yeah, we'll just do these three for now. That'll more than pay for our repair costs refueling the locomotives. No. And right there. Okay, this one is on E7, this one's on E3, and they're both 400 tons, so it's not gonna matter either way. So they're both about the same size, all things considered. And where is this one? That one's on G, because of course it is. Alright, 1 second. Okay. Let's double check with chat really quick, see if anything's going on there. Alright, now we're going to run over here to the roundhouse and get my locomotives. And since we're going all the way up to the goods factory, it might not be a bad idea to slap the caboose on the back. But we'll put a stamp in that and come back to it in a moment. And here are my locomotives. Alright, turn this on. Drop that down. Let's release the train brake and apply the independent. Alright, now we'll go back here, fire up the engine, and we'll get this party started. Alright, so go down here, get these straightened out. And this will definitely further prove my point that anybody watching the stream right now, you literally saw me connect the back locomotive to the front locomotive. So now when I get to the goods factory or something randomly derails, I'll be able to go back and be like, see, I'm not crazy. But deep down we know I probably am crazy. But it's whatever. Alright, this is not going to be an insanely heavy load, and it probably won't warrant using the 2 locomotives. And then to add insult to injury, the goods factory doesn't have a fuel facility, so I'm gonna have to service it at the station, which means it's going to be like twice the cost. So it's like, whatever. Alright. So we got to get back over to the E lot. Doesn't matter which one we pick up first, but we go over there to the E track, get both of the freight missions, probably the hazmat ones up front, and then put the intermodal ones. The intermodal. All right. Yeah, intermodal. Alright, so yeah, we're probably going to put these up front and those in the back. Or in the middle. And then put the empty box cars at the very back. And then we'll see if we want to bring the caboose along while we're at it. Because I think somehow the caboose is heavier than the empty boxcars. So by putting it behind the boxcars means I could potentially do like another string line derailment. And to be perfectly honest, you don't necessarily want to make that gamble. But on the another reason to not bring the caboose, if I put it in the right place weight-wise, we would have to dig it out when we get to the goods factory. Or just clear it. That's an option too. Alright. When we get over to the G lot, we'll figure out if we're gonna slap the caboose on the back. Because if you look over here at how much the caboose actually weighs, it's 22,000 kilograms. So we casually just teleport over here to look at our boxcars. Is it just boxcars? Okay, it says it's 4 cars, so it's these right here. Then what the hell are these? Oh, not connected. Yes, 43. Oh, that's a problem. That's gonna be a royal pain. Okay, so it's like a negligible difference. I can slap the caboose on the back. But the problem is I gotta get these out. I'll stick them over on this lane, I guess. Alright, let's see. Where is my train? It's stuck. So we've got Freight Hall 8 and 75. So let's see which one's where. They might be like next to each other, honestly. This is 5. This is 8. And this is 80. Okay, so there's 1. And this is probably 2. Yeah, 8 and 75. Yeah, ammonia is one of those things you don't want that to leak. If you wanted to see a reason to put on a Class A encapsulate in a not Class A, Level A encapsulated bubble suit, if that started leaking, we'd be wearing one. That is very poisonous. What the? Oh, damn it. It's going the wrong way. Alright, clearly I forgot to realign a switch. Should have checked that when I was walking by. We're going that way, but not right now. But to be fair, I did come out of the D lot with the last job. So let's go into reverse, throttle up, kick off the independent, and let's get lined up with this turn and this turn, and definitely let off on the throttle. Alright, so yeah, this is on E7, so that's E7 right there. And this is on E3. So let's go over here. And we need this track right here. Let's apply some brakes real quick. It's kind of a lot of brakes, but it's whatever. It's always worrying when I look at the tags at like a passing glance and it says it's like damaged in some way, but then you get closer and realize no, it's not damaged, it's good, it's 100%. But it happens like so often that it's just bizarre. Seems like 5 kilometers an hour is like the magic number for coupling in this game. or for making contact with the cars. Because you still have to go back and throw the chain over. You can't really couple the chain and hook moving. And something that I seen in the preview video for Simulator that just came out was refrigerated boxcars. And that caught my attention because I don't know if I've ever seen one before. I know they're a thing, I just don't know if I've ever seen one in the game. Maybe you see them up at the machine factory? Alright, let's keep an eye on that. Seems like more people click on the videos when you actually make a screenshot. Is just giving the automated one that you get from either Twitch or YouTube. Nothing about that ever catches anybody's attention. Did it the wrong way. Yes, that is the true limit of my compulsive behavior. You do stupid things like that, where if you don't do it a certain way, you have to do it again. It gets really weird if you're like, if I'm like leaving the house, and then I start wondering, did I lock the door? And then I gotta like make a U-turn and go back, only to find out, yes, I did lock the door on muscle memory. Now I just made a 2-mile round trip to check something that I've never not done. Now the thing that's weird about this specific load is this is hydrogen and this is ammonia. Or what would normally be shipped here in the US, anhydrous ammonia, meaning it doesn't have water and, by relation, hydrogen. So if you combine ammonia with hydrogen, you get some crazy stuff. So why we're shipping them together in the same train, I don't know. But I guess in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter too much. Because unless I do something horribly wrong, all of these cars are going to get to the goods factory completely unharmed. And it's not going to matter in the slightest. And see what I mean? It didn't even take leaving the harbor. It's already backwards. Like, it has been 20 minutes You literally watched me connect 77 to 76. But now 76 is connected to 77. Like, I used to do it from the front vehicle to the back vehicle, but then every time the game would always like switch it to being from the back vehicle to the front vehicle. And then even when you do the auto coupling with the remote here, it generally tends to do that. So I figured, okay, the game is telling me in not so subtle ways that it wants me to connect the back vehicle to the front vehicle. So I started doing that. And now, whatever one I do, the game somehow switches it to the other one just to spite me and make me feel like I'm going insane. The game hates me, and I have no idea why. It's like, no, you will not be one of the streamers of Derail Valley. Okay, now I'm truly losing my mind, because in the, 30 seconds that I was talking about it, it switched again. It's like Schrodinger's coupling mechanism. It's simultaneously in two quantum positions where it's coupled one way and the other simultaneously, and only when it's observed can we determine which one it's in at that present moment, or that instance of time. Which is like the most bizarre, oversimplified way to introduce quantum mechanics, but that's kind of part of the thing. Like, Schrodinger's cat experiment was more or less a joke where he was making fun of quantum mechanics and how absurd it is. But then somehow it's actually the best way to explain it. Or it's the best way to introduce it to somebody who doesn't know anything about it. Now, in case you're wondering, Schrodinger's cat is a hypothetical experiment where there is a cat in a sealed box with no windows. You have no way of observing the cat. And the cat is in the box with an unopened vial of poison. Until you open the box, you do not know, is the poison vial intact or has it leaked? If it's intact, the cat is alive. If it's leaked, the cat is dead. So until you open the box, you don't know if the cat is living or dead. So it's thought of as the cat is simultaneously alive and dead until you open the box and find out what state is it currently in. Now, everybody's probably thinking, well, there are other ways you can test that. Like, you can shake the box, you can do a thermal scan of the box. There are ways you can find out if the cat's living or dead without actually opening it, but that's not the point. Now, you might immediately start thinking, well, what good does that do? Why do I care about the hypothetical cat in the hypothetical box and whether or not it's alive? It cannot physically be in two states at once. It's either living or dead. There's nothing in between. Now, you're probably going to bring up, like, the ants and the cordyceps fungus and how you can be a reanimated corpse that's moving and you're somehow between living and dead. But that's not the thing. That's not important. We're getting spun around the axle about the wrong thing. What the quantum mechanics in general is specifically referring to is light. Is light a wave or a particle? Well, it turns out light is both. It is both a wave and a particle. And how do you observe this? Well, it's quite simple. You have like this little experiment that you conduct where you have a light source, foil film with a slit in it, and something to detect the light on the other side of the film, on the other side of, or with the slit in it. And the idea is, if light is solely a particle, when you look at the thing to capture it on the other side, if it was only a particle, it would just be a straight line that perfectly mirrors the slit. However, if it's a wave, there won't be a single line, there will be cascading lines going out from the center, because the light goes through the slit and then cascades out. Well, the funny thing is, when you look at the detector, you see both. You see the central line telling you that it's a particle, but you also see the cascading out lines telling you that it's a wave. So somehow it is doing two things at once. And then you're like, okay, well, can we detect it? Can we see what state it's in at any given time? And the answer is sort of. You put a detector before the film, and you can observe both the particle and the waveform, but you can only observe one instance at a time. So when you're looking at the detector, you could detect the waveform, or you could detect the photon particle. And it's like the weirdest thing. And then you learn that Schrödinger did his hypothetical cat experiment. Spoiler, no cats were harmed during the making of this experiment. It's literally just a thought experiment. But he made it in such a way that it was so absurd, because the cat can't be alive and dead. You literally have to be one or the other. Like, the conditions of one are mutually exclusive from the other. But then chemists, physicists, a bunch of other scientists were basically like, no, for someone who literally knows nothing about this, that's probably the best way to introduce it to them. So, in a roundabout way, to bring it back to what I was talking about, the coupling mechanism between my locomotives is Schrödinger's coupling mechanism. It's both forward and reverse simultaneously. It changes position depending on whether or not it's observed. And it's driving me up the wall, even though it's like the most trivial, pointless problem. But it's just... Gonna throw me into like some weird like spasm where like my face is gonna start like twitching and things. Like, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Just start like rocking back and forth. Like, I'm not crazy. You're crazy. And now I'm talking about like the 2 things I know about quantum mechanics. I am not by any means a physicist. I'm also not a very good chemist, but that's another thing entirely. I really love chemistry. It's like an awesome science. There's all kinds of cool stuff in it, but I'm probably not the best in the lab. My technique leaves a little bit to be desired. Alright, now let's go to the back. Make sure we got air. Yeah, see, these are heavy. This is more what I'm used to when seeing intermodal containers. And that specific one, if it's carrying tools, yeah, I can see that being heavy. Every once in a while, I used to get sent up as a truck driver. I got sent up to Detroit. Usually I was carrying like a Walmart load going up to, there's like a Sam's Club distribution center up there. So I would have a Walmart load going up, but without fail, whenever you come down from Detroit, you're carrying car parts. And they are always heavy. And it's not so bad when you're going through like the flat part of like northern Ohio where the turnpike is, but it starts getting a little bit crazy if you make the turn off and start heading south towards West Virginia. Then it starts getting a little crazy. And then you start finding out whether or not you know how to brake properly. There's a lot of stuff about driving trucks. And trains, as it seems. Hello. Welcome to the stream. I was just randomly ranting about quantum mechanics in spite of the fact that I am not a physicist. But I was using it to explain my frustration about the coupling between my locomotives. It is truly Schrodinger's coupling mechanism. It is both forward and backward simultaneously. It's in a superposition until observed. It's the craziest thing. So yeah, I went on a wild tangent where I was explaining the principles of Schrodinger's cat. And how it was supposed to be like a joke, but in actuality it's probably the best way to introduce it to, or introduce quantum mechanics to somebody who knows nothing about it. Basically, I learned something cool in one of my college classes, and I just never let it go. I will be a chemistry student until I die. And what I'm working on in this stream, I've got liquid hydrogen, ammonia, and random dry intermodal containers. And then I'm also going to go and get a cut of empty boxcars, all going up north to the goods factory. It's not a particularly heavy load, but both the hazmat and this one are 400 tons each, and then the boxcars are like 70 tons. But there's going to be a catch with the boxcars, because I got to dig them out first. They've got a row of flat cars stuck in between them, and I got to get them out of the way. And then I got to make the decision of whether or not it's a big difference if I slap on the caboose behind the box cars after I dig them out. You know what? It's probably not the best thing to do, but what I'm thinking is, instead of going through the painful process of backing this up and using my main road consist to move the cars, what if instead I turn on that DE2 over there, use that to move the flat cars out of the way, and then just park it right back there? Yeah, I would have to pay the maintenance costs for that locomotive, but it might be easier than moving this 800-ton consist to just drag and drop some flat cars. Let's get this aligned to go back towards G. Alright, it's gonna suck, but let's just bite the bullet and get it started. Alright, let's turn that off real quick. Okay. Headlight doesn't do anything. It's been so long since I've used one of these. Alright, let's go forward. Did I do that right? Okay, no, that's applied. Okay. That looks like a Class D fire extinguisher, which would be completely insane. The only ones I've ever seen that are that size are Class Ds. But yeah, I was seeing those pictures from the old days with this game, and I completely forgot we didn't always have an independent brake. thumb, you want to keep it around like 5 kilometers an hour when you bump the cars. I thought since you can couple at like a little less than 5 miles per hour in Train Sim World, I initially assumed that, well, if that's the case, then I should be able to convert that to metric and use that. Well, I came up with the number of approximately 7 kilometers an hour. Well, I found out that if you love tap a car at 7 kilometers an hour, you damage the car. So, as you can imagine, not a good day. It'd be really cool when we have the handbrake back here. But, like, every part of this will be really cool. Alright, so the plan is, since I gotta get to those box cars, I'm gonna drop these flat cars on the adjacent track. Alright, there's that. I'm gonna keep an eye on chat really quick. It's kind of a process for me to double check my chat messages because I'm playing in VR, so I gotta use this toolkit thing so that I can pull it up on my wrist. Although, truthfully, this is what you're supposed to use to switch cars. You're not supposed to use the DE6s. Especially not 2 of them like I'm using. Although when the simulator update comes out, I got a feeling I'm probably gonna use the DH4 as my switching engine, because it'll be a little bit bigger and probably have slightly more power, while still being compatible with the remote. But you do have to give them one thing. You have pretty good visibility in this. Basically, as per usual, I'm kind of just talking about anything and everything that interests me or catches my attention to try to fill, like, the dead air. Which is kind of like the weird thing about getting back into streaming. You gotta put some effort into trying to be, like, entertaining or compelling. You really got the same problem with videos and stuff like that. but it just feels different, I guess. Alright. Luckily, this is only 4 cars, so it's not too bad. What would be really problematic is if I just dump them here on the main line. Because just by moving these cars around, I'm already messing up a logistics or shunting job. But the jobs will pretty much despawn after I leave the harbor anyway. I'm curious to see how the job system is going to change after the simulator update. Because supposedly they're doing something behind the scenes to work on how jobs spawn. So it'll be interesting to see how that works and how it looks when they're done with it. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's a shunting job, so it's probably getting loaded. Of course, it's creeping back. All right. All right, let's just set all of the brakes so that maybe we can get these coupled. Okay, now we go back here, release that, leave that on, and check on our brake pipe to wait until the pressure builds back up and we can start moving again. And then we have to get this car 2 car lengths forward. And then we're good. Just have to make sure that it's not fouling this switch, as we're about to bring some very heavy stuff past here. There's got to be something else I'm not tied into. Because the brakes are released. Alright. That's weird. Alright, so these are 43. 2, 3, 4. So then this should be something else. Yeah, 32. Alright, let's just split these back up so we're not messing up our imaginary AI counterparts that are going to be switching these cars around after we leave. And maybe it was 2 cuts of cars in there and not just the one. So we were forcing through the brakes of the second set. Not really feeling dedicated enough to check. The shunter kinda looks like the Trackmobile that we had at the factory, except the Trackmobile was a vehicle that has 2 powered train axles, but it also has road wheels that it can lower down to lift itself up off the tracks and drive like a truck. It's a pretty cool piece of machinery, actually. Okay. Now we're lined up. But yeah, it's about this size. It's got platforms on the front and back, above the coupler knuckle. And you can use it to move stuff around the yard. The ones we had were mostly used to move empties, because we were just a factory building cars. Alright, so let's park this on the service track. And then we can realign this switch, go into the station, pay off the fees on this one so it's not a problem anymore. It'll cost a little bit more, but it would be even more difficult to get it over to the roundhouse, especially since I've currently got a train blocking the way there. So we're just not going to worry about that right now. Doing this an hour and I haven't even left the harbor yet. I mean, even more depressing is I haven't even built all of my train yet. So this is going to be another long one. Gotta make sure we're clear of the switch. I want to say that even though these aren't labeled, I think this is considered the A track. Okay. We used a DE2 for the first time in years. No, I know which one's mine. Alright. 88. Oh, normally it gives you like the prompt to tell you that it would be cheaper to do it with manual servicing, but I guess since it's only $700, they're just like, nah, you can afford it. Buy a new one. All right. Now, let's back this up. I didn't bother to release the train brake. So I've just left it locked this whole time. Really excited about the train brakes, or not train brakes, the handbrake. It'll be a little bit weird since they're putting them on the side of the cars, but I understand why they're doing it that way. It just makes more sense, and it's more approachable for like VR players like myself. And you can, at a passing glance, look at the cars and you look at the wheel and be like, okay, if the red line is to the left of the pin in the center, the brakes are released. If it's to the right, they're set. So at a quick glance, you can just be like, all right, yep, that one's set. Let's go release that brake. Whereas with the real ones, these cars don't have them modeled, but there would be a hand wheel on one of the ends. And the wheel, there's a chain tied to it. So you turn the wheel, you tighten the chain and pull the rods underneath here and lock the brakes in place that way. Whereas normal operations, they would be actuated by the air brakes. So it's kind of like the hand brake is like over top of the air brake. They're both applying the same brake shoes modeled there. But they're separate of each other, but they're both using the same mechanism. It's easier to see it on these because here is the wheel right there. But what's not shown, because it's not in the game yet, is in addition to that chain, which would go down here to a system that would tie it into these rods and things like that. What you don't see is to the right of this wheel, there's a quick release lever that you just pull it out, or you just push it out and it drops the chain and releases all of the tension on the chain. And it's a quick release for the brakes. There's not a quick way to apply the brakes, you just have to turn the wheel. But if you want to release the brakes, you just hit that lever. And it was cool because in the factory, we didn't have the facilities to make tankers. We mainly made gondola cars. But you would stand up on this platform in the last building where parts are added. Like, it's a fully functioning car. It just needs to go to paint and decal and final inspection before it's shipped out to the railroad. So going into the inspection position for production, it's a fully working car. So you stand up here on this deck plate, release the handbrake, and then they use a hydraulic winch on the floor to pull the car into the next bay of the building. And then once you get into the next position, you spin the wheel again to lock the handbrakes back in place. And you go on about your day. You go back to the position you came from. And it was like the dumbest thing, but it was just like so cool when you're the one that, since you were standing closest to it, just climb up there and ride the car into the next position. It's like so trivial, but it was like the coolest thing about when I was in that position. Nobody really makes a big deal about it, but it always interested me. So when I saw in the videos before I got interviewed to be a conductor, they were like, do you like hanging onto the side of a freight car while it's moving and then coupling other cars? Then this is the job for you. And I was like, by a very weird coincidence, that is exactly the type of thing that I like. This really is the job for me. And between Derail Valley and Train Sim World, you don't really think much of it, but you're doing the job of both the conductor and the engineer. Like right now, being outside of the locomotive, even remotely controlling the locomotive, I am perfectly being a conductor. But when I'm actually in the cab working with the controls and moving the locomotive, at that exact moment, I am playing the engineer. Alright, so let's keep throttling up because we've got some like invisible bumps in the track. Apparently it's focused around switches, and it can cause some very random derailments that are pretty upsetting. Alright, so we're going -3. Okay, the wall of the container is just like freaking out right now. Yeah, it has like some like rust spots modeled onto it, and it's getting like this heat distortion like visual effect. It's kind of throwing me off a little bit. Let's check out this, make sure that my microphone's still working, because I had that fail on me not too long ago. Alright, good to go. Yeah, I got like an hour and a half into the stream, and then the microphone on my Rift headset was just like, nah, I'ma stop. Let's see, did we cause any problems over here? Nope, it's still well inside of that line. Alright, let me get a drink real quick. So yeah, it turns out that's why I was having all of the problems moving those couple of flat cars. Because there wasn't just one section of flat cars, there was actually two. Or at least two. It might even be three. And I only coupled into the first one. Alright, so let's do like we always do, run back here. And the air's tied in. So we're good there. Now the real question is, do I want to even bother with the caboose? Really wouldn't do a whole lot for me. And I just have to clear it when I get there. Nah, I won't bother with it. I'll save that for another day. Okay, I need to be over there. Because I need to line this switch with the through track. $12.47. You gotta be careful going through this area because apparently if you're going like 18 around there, you can just like pop some of your middle cars just off the tracks randomly. But at least I've been reassured that the developers know that that is a problem, they know what's causing it, and they've said it's fixed in Simulator. So it absolutely will not be a problem when they come around to releasing the Simulator update. Now we're getting to the back with these just random boxcars. See, even none of these are reefers. So it was weird watching the video where they spawned in a refrigerated boxcar, and I was just like, were those in the game? Does the food factory have refrigerated cargo? Haven't been up there for a long time, so I honestly don't know. A little thing that I would like to see is just having this switch aligned with the end of the switch. Because you can't just like look back and see the switch post, because you have to add like another 4 or 5 feet onto it, and then you're clear to the switch. So just passing the sign isn't good enough. You gotta pass more than that. Basically, there's a lot of stuff I'm looking forward to about the simulator. Even though the game's called Derail Valley, I tend to play it the same way that I play Train Sim World. Which is kind of funny considering Derail Valley is not as strict about the consequences failing the scenario as Train Sim World is. Like, yeah, if you blow up those ammonia... If you blow up the ammonia cars up there, Derail Valley will send you a bill for the damages caused to the environment. But you're not going to fail the scenario. I guess you might. Because if they can't be re-railed and they're completely destroyed, the cargo's lost, so you can't turn in the job to get paid for it. So instead of getting a reward, you just get a bill. But in Train Sim World, if you derail anything, automatic failure, you accidentally run through a glitched signal that just refuses to change, automatic failure, stuff like that. Although, now that I think about it, there was a journey mission on the Horseshoe Curve DLC that I just could not complete. If you started the scenario from the Rail Journey tab, you would spawn into the scenario and you would just get a permanent red light that would just never change. It would just stay red, and if you pass the red light, you fail. Well, when I changed over to Train Sim World 3 instead of 2, I was able to complete that mission on the first try with no problems. So I haven't encountered the red light glitch in 3 as of yet. I have experienced the annoying thing where the scripted scenarios have you like waiting at a random signal for like an hour as like 3 trains come up the other direction on your track, and you actually have to wait for them to not just clear the signal but get to the next one, so they're out of that sensory range for the signal. And it's weird because you see one train go by you and you're like, okay, that's the train that was coming up, I can go, right? No, the signal's still red. So you contact the signaler in the game and they're like, negative, wait for clearance. And then you're just like, the train just left. it's not getting any more clear. And then you look at the map and find out, oh, wait, nope, another train just spawned in that's coming up north. So you're out of luck. You gotta wait for that one to pass too. Then after like the third train, I'm just like, are you serious? I'm glad I wasn't streaming at that point because I would have like abandoned hope. It took like 3 times to finish that mission because I was just waiting for the signal to clear. It's like, great. I get all of the problems about working on a timetable for a Class 1 railroad without actually working for a Class 1 railroad. It's kind of like when you do a transatlantic flight in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it'll take 8 hours of real time to get from, say, Detroit to Frankfurt, Germany. Well, in the game, it's going to take you 8 hours to make that flight. So you gotta save it en route and then just pick up where you left off, which is not really all that fun because you're kind of just setting the autopilot and just making sure that it's following the GPS. So doing that is probably not the best thing to do in Flight Simulator. Or at least it's not very interesting as like a game. What I was doing to actually practice was a much better option. There was like a 30-minute flight between a local airport and another one a couple hours away, and it was just a 30-minute flight, so I could just hop in my Learjet and just bounce between those places, and it only took 30 minutes to complete the flight. Then it took like another 30 minutes to land, but that's another thing entirely. Alright, now let's get out of here. An hour and a half later. I'm actually thinking that what I might do, since this took so long to get set up, I'm thinking I might get up to the steel mill and just stop there and make the actual deliveries next time I stream. Let's check on chat real quick. So yeah, that seems like a pretty reasonable solution. And we'll just call this like a day of switching for the most part. Because we're already up to an hour and a half. Yeah. Or even better yet, I can just stop right here. Apply the brakes. And I can just call it right here. This has been a fairly productive stream, although I pretty much just hooked up 3 different jobs and then moved like the 4th one out of the way. But this seems like a pretty good place to stop for now. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.